Hello everyone, welcome to the SharePoint Framework and JavaScript special interest group. This is our first call after our vacation stop, like we didn't have any calls during July, but we're August 1st, so our first call is up again, and this time is about SharePoint Framework and JavaScript in our special interest group. My name is Bert Janssen. I'm not your usual host today, so typically this is run by Patrick Rogers and Vesa Juvonen, but those guys are still enjoying the vacation. So let's see how I can manage this call for you. I hope you all enjoyed your vacation as well. Welcome back. We're getting back into the usual rhythm. That also applies to our calls. So we'll have the regular special interest group calls again. We'll have the monthly community calls again. All the things that you were used to have in the past are coming back as of August. Now today, we'll give you a quick update on SharePoint Framework from the engineering side. Then there is the usual updates that we have around PnP JS, the Office 365 CLI, our reusable SharePoint Framework controls, and our Yeoman generator. And obviously, we also have demos like we each time have. And this time, Velin has a cool demo on how to hide app customizers for guests, and Vardhaman will show how to use Microsoft Brush in combination with SharePoint Framework libraries. Now, this also is our first official SharePoint Framework special interest group for JavaScript, SharePoint Framework and JavaScript special interest group using Teams. Finally, we made it to Teams. Teams is all the features we need now, and let's see how this goes. So, for now, everything looks good. There's people are joining, people are there. I see messages in the chat window, so seems to be all going good. So everyone is happy, and not sure why Patrick Rogers added this image in there, but this seems to be like a happy party. People happy about Teams. Who knows? Anyhow, moving on. If you want to participate in the PnP SharePoint Framework and JavaScript special interest groups, there is a number of ways for you to do so. You can do a SharePoint Framework related demo. You might have a cool web part, you might have a nice application customizer, something else that you created using SharePoint Framework, and you want to show that to us, show it to the community. Great, just kind of reach out to us, let us know, and we'll get you a spot on one of the future SharePoint Framework and JavaScript special interest group calls. Same applies to PnP JS. So you might have done something really cool using PnP JS or using the CLI or using reusable controls or the Yeoman generator. If you're using those components and you want to showcase what you did with them, more than welcome to get you a spot in these calls. Also, we definitely would like to see your contribution. So we are a community, and the community works because people contribute and provide feedback. So if you have an issue, please report it in our issue list. If you have feedback, let us know as well, meaning we think we're doing a good job, but maybe we're not. Maybe you have some thoughts to improve things. We're very open to listen to your feedback and improve this whole community. Now, moving on. This is a recurring slide, but it's an important one. So first of all, our documentation on docs.microsoft.com is there for you, and you can edit it. You can change it. So if you have a particular, if you see something wrong, might be even a typo, might be something that you want to extend, something that's wrong, just go over there, click edit. You will end up in GitHub where you can make the changes to the MD files. You package them up, you create a PR. That PR ends on our desk, and we'll just merge it in, and your contribution will be live on docs.microsoft.com. So that's really cool. Next, we have our video platform. If you go to ak.ms/spdev-videos, you end up on a YouTube channel, which has literally hundreds and hundreds of videos. This video will be there as well in a couple of days, but everything that we produce, everything that we do gets recorded and gets posted over there. So check it out. And finally, last but definitely not least, is our issue list. ak.ms/spdev-issues gets you there. This is the SPDev docs repository, and in there there's an issue list which we use to track developer related issues. So if you have an issue or concern around SharePoint Framework development, even general SharePoint development, please check the list. Maybe someone else already logged that issue, maybe there's a solution. Maybe it's not. Then you just create an issue list in there, and so we'll see it, and we are actively looking at this list and triaging it and trying to get those issues resolved as soon as possible. Just a quick note, this is an issue list focused on SharePoint development related things. So if you have a general SharePoint question, then that probably is not really the best place to put this question over there. So, but if it's developer related, definitely use this list and put your messages over there. Just before vacation, we released an updated training package for SharePoint framework development. So if you're new to SharePoint framework development, or you want to refresh your knowledge, or you want to kind of take this package and go to your customer, to your partners, to the people that you work with, and educate them, feel free to get this content, use it in any ways for you to further grow in SharePoint framework development and teach other people SharePoint framework development. It's there for you to fully reuse in any form that you might need it. So go over there. The place to be is ak.ms/spfx-training. And it's a pretty extensive piece of content, really high quality. So definitely worthwhile checking out this content. Now, as you might have noticed, for the folks that are active on Twitter, we did see a lot of kind of getting started videos popping up. And we actually recorded a whole series of these small, short getting started videos, typically around less than 10 minutes in the June timeframe. And these were scheduled publishings. So we keep on kind of releasing those. And there will be more to come even in the September timeframe. Also August timeframe, and maybe even September, depending on how many videos we have. But essentially, these are short snippets that really give you kind of quick start on a particular topic. So if you're interested in using CLI, okay, and you haven't used it, okay, then this is the place to start. Just this short 10-minute video will get you kind of started, and then you can start learning from there on. And there's a ton of topics in different audiences. It talks about CSOM, it talks about modernization, CLI, PnP JS, websites, and some more and some more. So a ton of topics and more to come. Now let's talk a bit about updates. What has happened? What is happening? First of all, about SharePoint framework. So you might have noticed that we have kind of pulled the 1.9 release, and actually due to some issues, especially around Workbench, there were some issues, and we decided to actually remove the release for now. The 1.9.1 release, though, will get out really soon. And really soon is early August, so most likely next week. That one will have a general ability of the library components. So that one was in beta before. Our tooling chain moved to Webpack 4. There is some API updates as well. So for example, the Graph HTTP client is now fully deprecated. You should use the MS Graph client. So if you're still using that one, try to change your code. So to use the MS Graph client. The isolated web-part model, so the model where you can kind of, when you deploy web-part and host a web-part on a page, that web-part runs in its own iframe, so it can have separate security defined to it. That model now also is supported in Teams. And we have some other Teams integration improvements that are part of this 1.9.1 release. Other things on the radar. As you might have seen in some conferences, we are looking into using SharePoint framework to build Office add-ins, so that work is still further evolving. CSOM.NET standard is a long, has been asked for a long time already. We keep on promising it. We're not there yet, but let's see. Let's keep on pushing to get this as soon as possible. But I don't have a particular timeline to share there. A store for SharePoint framework solutions. This is moving forward as well. I've seen some internal communications that that things are moving in the right direction without giving too much away. So definitely definitely alive and being worked on. And then there's some additional other smaller improvements that are being worked on. Okay, PnP JS. What has happened over there? So on July 12. So during our kind of vacation period, the 1.3.4 release came out. 1.3.5 though was delayed to August, middle of August, due to vacations. I think if you go to the changelog on 1.3.4, you see the individual changes. But I see there's some things like around item recycling, some site deletion, and communication site creation methods, some additional support for site design. So there's a lot of cool things, a lot of new things in the 1.3.4 release. There's also work being done on version 2, which is a kind of a refactoring rewrite of the library. This work is kind of done like next to the work in the 1 series. It's continuing, but given the summertime, things kind of slow down a little bit. But it will pick up the pace there once everyone is back at full speed. If you are interested in joining that one, if you want to kind of contribute to the version 2 release, then Patrick created like this nice video to kind of get you started, get you introduced to the topic, and the video can be reached using this link, ak.ms/PnP JS v2-start-contributing. Moving on, we have CLI. CLI has some improvements as well. Velin, do you want to kind of take this one?
Sure. So on the CLI is again something like a vacation because there isn't much movement, but there is a big thing coming around September. So in September, we will release version 2 that will have major improvements. And what you're seeing here is maybe another official release for version 1 that will include upgrade SPFx project to the new framework that will come next week or whenever it comes. But in September will be the big bomb because the beta we have there is already at version 2, and you can test the version 2 of the CLI. It has a simplified login, so we can log into multiple services by just using Office 365 login and nothing else. And then we've added support for authentication with personal information exchange file, which is something like a high trust authentication that can be used as well. And again, as Bert said, we the same as in PnP JS, we like with the CLI tool, there is a nice backlog. You can visit the GitHub issues list where all the items are there. Everyone willing to participate in that can pick up an item from there, an issue from there, and it has nice description and everything is kind of clear, and you can create a command for the CLI tool, which is not that hard actually. Even with version 2, the commands, the scripts for the commands are easier than even in version 1. So it's very, very easy to get started and contributing to the tool if you're interested. So any contributions welcome. But in general, we also released some Microsoft Teams additional commands, and also from what I can see on top is you can create a single page app using the CLI as well. And that's in general, Bert. Like the big boom will be in September or at the end of August. So that's coming. That's it.
All right. Thanks, Velin, for this update.
Yep.
So some cool stuff coming in September. Great. All right, moving on. Our SharePoint framework reusable components. Well, these components are on vacation mode. So Elio is on vacation. Elio is the main guy driving this. So let's get this one updated for the next call within 2 weeks. Then we have our Yeoman generator, the one that Stefan Bauer kind of is mainly driving. And Stefan let me know that there's no updates as well from his side. So again, due to vacation. So kind of repeating theme, vacation, but it's July, August, and yeah, that's vacation months. Now with that, we actually ran through our typical update slides and what's new slides. So we're ready for demos. And the first demo is will be from Velin. around the guest hidden app customizer. So Velin, you can take it away, share the screen and blow us away.
Yep. Let me see. Just let me know when you can see my screen. So we know that
all
works.
good for me.
Okay, great. So let me just show you how it works. It's based on a business scenario, and then we can go through the code and see how it's been done. Like recently, we had an ask because we have a customizer that is behaving like a navigation bar on top. That's not the real customizer. That's just a sample, but we had so many internal links in our intranet that inviting a guest user, whenever a guest user clicks on those internal links, he will go nowhere because he's not part of intranet. So the ask there was to just hide the whole customizer because any external user will not be able to interact with links like those here. And what you can see here is my customizer is over here where I'm pointing with the mouse, and it has just 2 links. So that's a sample from the PnP samples. It's already contributed, but it is very simple. This is it. But from what we can see here, I'm logged in with my tenant account, and I'm part of that tenant. And here on the right side, I'm logged in with my Gmail account. So unprofessional, but to show you that I'm external user to the very same site. And I'm not seeing the customizer here. So external users will not see it, internal users will see it, and it will contain some information from them. It's pretty, the code is not much. So I'm serving it from my local bench, but I will show you the code there. So in general, the way to identify whether a user is external is to use a Microsoft Graph. So in the Microsoft Graph, we can retrieve the details about the user. And in those details, there is something that's called user principal name. And in that user principal name key, there is a value that contains the email, some additional characters, and along with all the additional characters, there is something called ext. So let me try to zoom it. So zoom it a little bit, a little less. So all my customizer is doing is calling the graph when it loads. So this is the web part here. This is the app customizer here. And this is the starting point of the app customizer. And on init, when the app customizer starts loading on, before it starts loading and rendering any kind of HTML on the page, I'm using the MS Graph client to execute a query against the graph and grab details about the current user. So I'm accessing that me endpoint to grab the details, and in those details is the user principal name here. The user principal name contains that extension in case it's an external user. And if we find that that piece of text within the user principal, we just don't render the web part. So what I'm saying here is, yes, if this is an external user, resolve that on init and just don't continue further on. And what it happens is we return here and we never show the customizer that is supposed to render here. The rest of the code is not very excited. The excited part is that I'm using the graph client. So if you're not familiar with the graph client, this is a built-in functionality of the SharePoint framework that we can utilize to call the graph, the Microsoft Graph, and get information from there. But before we can call anything related to the graph, as you can see, I can call it from the context of the application customizer. So .context, and then you have the graph here, just for your information. And then before we can call the graph even, we have to grant permissions. So that customizer will be allowed to access data and get data from the graph. So another highlight here is if I go to the package solution, we will see additional property here that says Web API permissions request. So that basically means that application customizer is allowed to access the graph and read users' data. So that being in the package is not enough. Whenever we package everything and deploy it to an app catalog, then we have to approve those permissions. As we can see, it says permissions requests. It's not permissions granted. So once the package is being deployed, there is another additional step that has to be done for the graph, and that's in the admin. Let me just go to the admin panel very quickly to show you where where this has to be approved. So admin, like that. And then we go to SharePoint. And open the new. So that functionality is not available in the classic screens, on the classic screens. So you have to go to the new screens and go to the API management. And in case that's not been approved, I already have approved it. So under the approved category, it's Microsoft Graph User Read. So that means that my application will work and it will be able to access the graph. But in your case, if that's never been done, it will be here in the pending. Just some highlights and more on how you can get started with Microsoft Graph. I think I have a video on the Getting Started series here. So that's a video from Paulo that is explaining in more details how you can do that. And I'll just paste it here in the chat. But in general, the highlight of this demo was to show you how you can hide something from external users. And basically, this is the most important piece of my web part or of my application customizer. This is application customizer, but the same approach can be taken for a web part in case you just want to hide a web part instead of an extension on the page. So the call is exactly the same, the search is exactly the same, and we say we render or we don't render based on whether you're a guest user or you're not. Bert, I think that's all for me. I have nothing more to say here. It's just a very simple sample this time.
Yeah, maybe it's a simple sample, but it's definitely a valuable scenario, Velin, because well, everyone nowadays uses external users, and being able to indeed have your customizations, whether being web part or application customizers, being kind of aware of the context of the user makes a ton of sense. And the example that you just showed really clearly explains how to do it. So yeah, really good. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
All right, now I think let me share the screen real quick again from my side. And then we should have Vardhaman on the call. Vardhaman, are you there?
Yeah.
Cool. So you're up next. There is plenty of time because I don't talk that long on these topics as Vesa and Patrick, because I'm maybe not so super up to speed on all of these topics as well. But nevertheless, there's about half an hour for you to do your demo on using Microsoft Rush with SharePoint Framework libraries. If you need less time, obviously that's fine as well. Then we have some time for Q&A, or we can just end up a little bit earlier on. So feel free to take over the screen and start demoing.
Yeah, sure. I think I'll probably require too much time, maybe.
No, but that's fine.
Quickly.
That's fine. But yeah, you don't have to rush it, at least. That's the good thing. That's the message I wanted to give. So take the time you need. When it's done, it's done. That's fine.
Sure. All right. So yeah, hi everyone. My name is Vardhaman Deshpande, and then I thought today we could kind of go through Microsoft Rush and then how it can be used to kind of manage large SPFx repositories. Now, the SPFx repositories could get fairly large depending on how you set them up, and especially when it comes to library components and them getting generally available soon. I think it would be kind of good to learn about different ways to manage large repositories and with multiple library components and consumer components as well. So imagine you're working on a fairly large solution, and you have something like a structure like this, where you have like an organization-wide utility component, which is an SPFx library component, which is used throughout your company. Then working with like a specific project, you create your own library component, and then you have certain consumer web parts and extensions which hook into those library components. And then there's a dependency on there's a dependency on the utility library in the organizational library as well. So like you can start seeing how this structure can get fairly complicated fairly quickly, especially in things like you have to manage multiple node modules folder if you're using npm. I know some package managers like PnPM have other ways to address that. But say if you're using npm, then you have to manage multiple node modules folders. Also, you have to manage the dependency tree yourself. Like for example, if utility library gets updated, you have to know which other downstream dependencies have to be updated with that as well, so that they don't break. And as kind of projects like these get larger, it becomes harder and harder to manage independent npm packages and modules. So there are certain tools available which kind of help you address this situation, and one of them is Microsoft Rush. If you go to the Rush website, you're able to see all the different features Rush makes available, and it's used internally at Microsoft in certain products as well. We'll talk about like more different tools, alternatives to Rush a little bit later as well. But the topic of this demo is mainly around Rush. So one thing we need to kind of understand is a lot of benefits which you get when you're working with Microsoft Rush. Is that you don't it manages all your node modules of all the different SPFx solutions in a single location. It also creates a single log file. And then once you update in a single command, it tries to detect which of your packages were updated, and it updates the relevant downstream dependencies as well. So we'll see a quick demo. The first demo is fairly simple. It's just a one-to-one relationship. So there's one library component and then one SPFx web part which uses that library component. So in the first demo, it's just a normal structure where I've got an SPFx web part, which imports a library component and just prints the name of the component. And then in the package, there's a dependency on that. So let me try and update this library component. Let me call it. Okay, and then I won't go into go into the detailed steps of how you can set up Rush. I think the website also has great details, as well as I've got them in my blog post as well. So once everything is set up and then you update your library component, you just have to do rush build, and it will start determining which packages in your tree changed, and it will update the downstream dependencies as well as the packages immediately. It also can run builds in parallel, so depending on your CPU and how much power it can command. Right now, you can see there's only 3 simultaneous processes, but we don't need those right now. So it can also update multiple packages in parallel if they don't have dependencies on each other. So hopefully this will complete in pretty quickly. This was to kind of just show that once you update a component, all the packages which depend on it are updated as well. Yes, so you can see that the 2 packages updated. Now, another quick thing I can show you is, say you don't need to update the library, you just update your consumer web parts. So again, going back and doing another. So straight away, it will determine that the library component did not change. So it's going to skip it, and it's only going to go and update the package which has the web part. Now, behind the scenes, this is running all your normal gulp bundle, gulp package solution commands. You can see the details about that in the blog post as well. So just a quick demo to show that it only updates the packages which have changed. And yeah, so you can see that in the report that only the web part package was updated and the library component was skipped. Now we'll see a slightly more complex demo as well, where it's going to kind of listen to, or it's going to demo this structure. Now, as I mentioned, it can also detect parallel builds. So for example, if the organizational library component is going to get updated, it will update the downstream dependency as well, and it will kind of determine that the second component doesn't need to be updated, so it will skip that as well, along with the utility library, because that's not getting updated because it doesn't have any dependency. So going back, similar kind of structure in the apps folder. I have two SPFx solutions. One is the first app, which has a dependency on directly on the utility library, and then in the second app, it has a dependency on the organizational library. And then when I go in the libraries folder, the organizational library has a dependency on utilities library as well. Now, when I go here and I update the organizational library, then I do a rush build again. It's straight away going to determine which components need to be updated. So first of all, it skipped the utility library because, as you can see, it's a top-level library. It doesn't need to change because organizational library has changed. Similarly, it skipped the second app as well, which directly depends on the utility library, because that doesn't need to change because organizational library has changed. And then it will start building the packages which need to change. So as you can see, like, you can probably start imagining how easy it would be to manage large repositories with many bundles, and you can have multi-level dependencies in it as well. Now, the way it kind of determines is to which packages should be updated is due to this file called rush.json. So in that, this has to be manually configured when you set up Rush. So in that, you can configure the name of the package and then which folder is that package going to live in right now. And when it traverses the package.json file of certain packages, it determines which is the dependencies, and then it goes and looks in that folder and updates the packages accordingly. Also, another thing to remember is that it uses the git change files to git change tracking to determine which files are updated and accordingly update the relevant packages. So today, if you're using another version control system like TFVC, for example, Rush won't help you in that sense as of now. So I've got all the details in my post around like what are the benefits and what are the advantages and things to consider as well. And I've got a detailed kind of walkthrough of how to set up the simple project which we saw earlier as well. Now, one thing I should mention is this mono repository or mono repo is not a new concept. It has been in existence since a while. So there are other kind of package mono repo managers available as well. So one of them is Lerna, which is fairly common, and Sergey has got a great post on how to use Lerna to manage SPFx projects. So if you go through the post, you can see the install.js and create React app, all of them use this. So I haven't used it myself, but something to explore as well. And that's about it, Bert. That's what I wanted to cover. So if I think I probably didn't use as much as time as I had.
That's fine, I think. It's really, again, a really cool demo, and Rush indeed is a pretty nice tool for this scenario. We use it internally for our own inside the SharePoint organization. It has been built from there on.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we use it on a daily basis. So it's good that we see some external usage as well from that now, and that you have a nice blog kind of explaining how to get started with it combined with this video. So this will get some more folks getting started with Rush, I think. But thanks for the demo, Vardhaman. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, let me share my screen again. We have plenty of time, so we'll probably not make it to the full hour. All right, so demos are done. What's left for this call is, well, our next meeting. So the next SharePoint Framework JavaScript special interest group is within 2 weeks. So same time, within 2 weeks, that will be the August 15th. Next week, Thursday, there is the general SharePoint development special interest group, which covers Office Dev PnP, Sites Core, modernization, PowerShell, anything else besides SharePoint Framework and JavaScript related development questions and demos. So you're definitely invited to be there as well. Also invited to demo there if you have things that you want to show us there. Same principle, same processes here. Just shoot us a mail, let us know that you have a cool demo to show, something to tell us, and then we'll give you a place in the calendar, and you can take 50 minutes up to 20, 30 minutes, depending on the time we have to do a cool demo. Now with that, I think we are at our ending of the presentation. So we could do some Q&A now. Given the fact that I'm not the SharePoint Framework expert, the Q&A might be a little bit hard unless Andrew wants to chime in here and help getting some questions answered by other folks in the community. But if there's any questions that are burning that you really want to ask, then feel free to do so. If not, we'll wrap up this call. The presentation and the recording will be out somewhere next week. In our PnP YouTube channel, so /SPFx-videos is the place where you can find the video then. Okay, Andrew, quick update, tell us.
Sure. Hey, thanks for hosting this today, Bert. Much better in Teams.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know that people have been asking a bunch of questions and doing a bunch of stuff with in the SP Dev Docs issue list. We're catching up a bunch of stuff. We've had a bunch of people who have, as you heard from the beginning of the call, a lot of people were on vacation throughout the month of July, including me at the very end of it. So we've got a bunch of issues that we're running through. And I know one that some people have noticed that's been kind of called out quite a bit recently related to extensions. A lot of people have been saying they can't get their extensions to work with using the local gulp serve, using the local web server to test your extensions that are in production. We're still verifying this, but it appears there might have been a regression a way back in one of the releases. You'll see there's someone who has posted a workaround. What the issue is there's a casing issue around the URL that's generated where the load SPFx is using the wrong casing. If you just search through some of the existing issues that are currently there, I forget one of them off the top of my head. I can probably pull the issue number real quick. It looks like issue number 4374. Someone has, I'll grab a link to it as well, to the specific comment that shows the fix, and I'll post it right in the chat. It's a really easy fix. You just have to change something in the URL to get it to work. And it looks at the URL that's being generated is not telling the SharePoint framework to load itself on the page. Something we're validating. Hopefully we'll get it. If it is an issue, it'll get fixed in a future update really soon. But right now it's just an extra little thing that you got to do to get it to work. But we are getting caught up on the issue list and triaging the stuff that is still marked as triaged. So we'll get there. Just give us a little bit more time.
Yep, thanks for the update, Andrew. And as I said, yeah, we're all getting slowly out of vacation. So next month, actually this month, next week, most people will be back. But I will be gone then. But most other people will be back and working at full speed. So we'll definitely catch up on those things. So I think we can wrap up this call. I would like to thank again Velin and Vardhaman for the demos.
How about we spend 5 minutes, because there are people interested in CLI, how they can contribute. I can share a few screens for 5 minutes.
Absolutely.
Before we wrap up. What do you think?
Go ahead. Go ahead. That's why this call is for.
Yes. So let me share it. Okay. Joachim and someone else pasted the starting point for the CLI, and that is actually the starting point of the CLI. How you can contribute and what is the minimal path of awesome for you to set up the development, and how you can submit a pull request and so on and so on. But if you go through all these, you see there's nothing scary. At the end, this is a npm Node.js application. And if you're familiar with TypeScript or JavaScript, it's not a big deal to start contributing with it. If you don't know from where to start, there's the backlog, and everything is nicely done here. We have the full backlog here as different issues, and these are not just bugs or findings, it's just a complete features here. And as you can see, that is more of a feature request. It's a good first issue. That means that anyone that has never contributed to the CLI can pick it up and try to work on it. And once someone is working on it, it's obviously a work in progress. Those tags are very valuable when we're using them very effectively. So as you can see, some are waiting on response. But in general, if you go here, you can see what would be the name of the command. Is it good for you? Is it help wanted? Yeah, obviously. And if you go inside, we'll see some additional descriptions. And usually many of those commands are requested by the community. As you can see here, it's not us creating those commands. The community requests something. We come up with a solution. That command might look like that. And then we implement it. And the code itself is not supposed to be scary either. This is how a command looks. These are the team's commands from the CLI. And this is how we can remove a team from teams. And every command has name, description. We have to log some telemetry so we can track if the CLI is used and how it's been used. And then is the command itself. And as you can see here, we're sending a request against, this is the graph in that specific case, but it's more like a sending AJAX request or promise request, what you used to do in JavaScript. So it's nothing scary. We're sending that delete request with some details here. And then we're receiving some information. If you're enabled verbose of the CLI, it will show you that it's done. If you haven't, it won't show you anything. It will just say everything is fine. We've deleted the teams. And then below there are the options. We specify the options like that. So that command requires team ID and requires you to confirm that's additional parameter. Some validations on those parameters and help section. So in case you type Office 365 CLI, teams remove help, this will be displayed there. It's not scary. It's most of the time is JavaScript, what you used to do in the SharePoint framework web parts. So I suggest to have a look at those, the issue list there, and pick up something really easy that says good first time issue and try to start with there. Setting up the development environment is just Node. So fork of the CLI is needed. After you download the source code, it's npm install, then npm link to link the CLI so you can test it, and then npm run watch, and then you're straight into the code and you can start building code on top of it and execute commands. So this is like 5 minutes overview. We have Gitter. You can join the Gitter and ask more questions. We can try to answer everything. You can ask questions even in the issue list. So we encourage people to log as much information as they want here. Any questions, any issues, any features are here, so we can keep track, and Google can keep track, and everyone can browse through that log. But as you can see, so far we've closed almost 500 issues and 500 issues and 500 pull requests. So every issue is assigned to a pull request, and at the end that issue is closed along with the pull request. Let me see any questions there.
Yeah, there are some questions around how do people claim an issue? Like if they want to work on a particular issue,
yes.
Do they just put a note in the issue and then we mark it as
yes.
being assigned?
So let me show you how it works. So you find that issue and you say, feel free to assign to me. So Albert-Jan created that issue and said assign to me, but usually if you're not the creator of the issue, there will be a description there, and then below you can comment and say, just assign me, I'll work on it. And then maybe Valdek or maybe me goes there and says, okay, you're assigned, so I put you here as an assignee. I changed the labels to work in progress. And once you're ready, there is no deadline, there is no timeline. Whenever you're ready, that could take 2, 3, 5 weeks. It's not a big deal. Then you submit a pull request, and if the command is working, we just close the issue along with the command. But here somewhere is that being worked on? No, probably I have to pick up one that is being worked on just to show you how it is. Just comment below the issue. It's like a nice conversation there, whatever. Let me see, that one could be. So feel free to assign me. This is how you can get started. Mm-hmm. This is it. You just select an issue and you just comment below, and we assign you. So everyone knows that it's work in progress.
Yep, that's really simple system. Just write a short message. Yep. Another question was, is there like a styling guide? Like if folks want to start writing code, do they have to kind of follow a particular guide on code styling, or is it kind of everyone does what he or she thinks is the best way to write, or you just kind of get inspired by the current styling of most examples? I think that's probably the most logical answer there, but
yes. So there is no guideline, but the Valdek is very strict. So we will, if we see something that's not right or it requires optimization, we will let you know that might be improved. So there is no guideline. Like there is a nice structure that has to be followed. All these methods should be in place for the command to run. But how you decide to build that logic inside is up to you. Because we are all professionals, we all know how to write code. And it's, for me, I can read any type of code, but sometimes the code requires some improvement, or there is an area of improvement where we will suggest something. Because whenever you create the pull request, it's myself or Valdek is reviewing the code, and it passed through a very strict review of everything, even the white spaces in the helping section. For example, if you have a white space here, either I will fix it for you, or I will tell you.
Be careful with the white space. Yes. It's a very dangerous character in your code, white space. Right.
So, Bert, what I'm trying to say is, you do it the way you always did, but we will always suggest, and along the line, you will learn, and we will learn from your code, but you might learn from our suggestions to improve your coding skills. This is in general, no coding guidelines, it's TypeScript.
No, I think that the most important thing is that people in the community contribute and write code indeed the way that they think is best. And if we need to do some changes, then we do some changes. But overall, the contribution is the main thing that we are happy about. So that's good.
So Gary said, I was thinking await versus then. It doesn't matter as long as the command is working.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. I'm done, Bert.
No, there's one other question. Maybe there's a question from Hugo. Is there a CLI command to help with diagnosing environments? So a command that can tell you, like, this standard is running a first release or a version or other kind of diagnostics that might be available. Do we have something like that?
No, at the moment, but you can suggest it in the issues list, and we can put it under design. This is the first thing. When we lack of details, we'll select that this is needs design. We'll get a nice discussion around that, and if that can be implemented in a timely manner, we will just probably implement it.
Yep, all good. All right, I think scrolling through to the list of questions, I think we covered most of them, all of them. So there's a question from Kamal, why not use PnP JS for making REST calls? Do you have some feedback on that, Velin? Like, I think you guys use direct REST calls, so you're not using PnP JS, but
we're not using PnP JS. That's more on the Valdek side, but Valdek wants to keep it as less dependent as possible. So we have a very, very few NPM packages there. And we're trying to get rid of any dependency there. So the CLI is more like an independent tool that has 100% coverage, and it's very strictly monitored, and it's a really nice project just to see how it grows. So because Valdic might have more reasons. For me, is to have less dependencies.
The dependency reason is definitely one of the reasons why. So yeah. All right. I think we're kind of ready to close the call. Thanks everyone for attending this first SIG meeting after the vacation period. Looking forward to see you all on the next ones. Next week, Thursday, the general development. The week after, again, the SharePoint Framework and JavaScript development SIG call. So thanks everyone, and see you later. Bye-bye.